and shut up. This ain't no democracy.
Yes, it is.
No, it ain't. This is the United States. Your ass belong to me. They don't give a damn about you. They don't like you. I don't like you. Nobody likes you.
You suggested that you happened to turn black recently for political purposes, questioning a core part of your identity.
Yeah.
Any?
Same old tired playbook. Next question, please.
That's it?
That's it.
Vice President Kamala Harris, in her first TV interview since becoming the Democratic nominee, quickly brushing off Donald Trump's comments on her racial identity. As the vice president hits the campaign trail, there is a growing focus on a group of voters that doesn't usually get recognized as a political demographic. That is mixed race voters, people of two or more races. Joining us now, NBC News correspondent and co-anchor of NBC News Daily, Morgan Radford. She sat down with a group of mixed race and multi-ethnic voters to get their take on this election. Morgan, it is great to see you. What did they tell you?
Hey there, Willie. Good morning. Look, this was a fascinating conversation, just to say the least. We talked to 6 people across a range of different racial, ethnic, and political backgrounds in my home state, the swing state of North Carolina. And many of them said that, look, the census forms and the boxes on polls, they give them pause, sometimes even panic, because of the choices that those boxes force them to make. But even though they said those boxes are getting better and a little bit more inclusive over time, people's perceptions politically can still be pretty narrow. Take a look.
I identify as Indian American and white.
Hispanic, Asian.
They're the face of a changing nation.
When anybody asks, I just say I'm black and Puerto Rican.
All my grandparents are from a different ethnic background.
Multiracial Americans are now the fastest growing racial or ethnic group in the country over the last decade. And their voting power will be significant. In 6 battleground states, the population with 2 or more races has surged by more than 200%. Including here in North Carolina's Mecklenburg County.
Can you raise your hand if you are a Republican, Democrat, Independent? Does the way that you identify racially impact your politics, or specifically how you plan to vote this election?
Absolutely.
How so?
I'm not going to lend my support behind someone who does not support people who look like me.
I don't think he sees me as who I am.
Former President Donald Trump.
Yes.
And what about the rest of you?
I just don't think that Kamala Harris has anything vested in the air finger quote black or Hispanic experience in so much as it would be identified by anybody that lives in those communities.
You're saying you don't think that she can help black or brown people?
No, I mean, going to Howard don't make you black.
A conversation that quickly turned to this moment in a July interview at the National Association of Black Journalists.
I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black. So I don't know, is she Indian or is she black?
What did you think when you heard those comments?
Highly offensive. I mean, I think probably every multiracial, mixed race, biracial person has had the experience of someone else telling them that they are not something enough. I think it's kind of triggering, right?
I think it is impossible to be biracial in America. And I think that it requires that you're covering all bases at all times. And it requires constant recognition of both identities. And I think when Donald Trump says stuff like that about Kamala Harris and implies that she's like picking a race for political advantage, it's tapping into an incredibly familiar sentiment that I think everyone on this panel can understand.
Marie and Abdul, as Trump supporters, when you heard that comment, as mixed people, how did it register with you?
Well, my first thought was, that wasn't very well thought out. At the same time, though, when I heard it, I didn't hear it as an attack on blacks or Indians. I heard it more so of him commenting towards identity politics and the appeal that some take to play up one side of their race over the other.
Abdul, I see you nodding your head.
I agreed with him. I didn't know she identified as black because everything I saw was first South Asian, first Indian. There's none of that identified as black.
Regardless of her parents, I mean, she was born in this country and she identifies as a black person in this country in an American way, in a uniquely American context.
I've never heard her identify herself as a black woman.
She said multiple times she's a black woman.
I've never heard it.
But I'm black.
Yes.
And I'm proud of being black. Politics sometimes becoming personal this year, with mixed race Americans having representation on both tickets.
I don't agree with anything J.D. Vance has to say. I mean, almost nothing. But I think it's incredible that we've gotten to a point where the Vice President of the United States can have a wife named Usha Chilikari and a son named Vivek. That doesn't mean I won't vote against him in November.
Even though you disagree with Kamala Harris politically, do you feel some kinship towards her as a mixed person?
Not personally. I find a lot of her trajectory to not be my brand of woman leader. We've got 3 major international crises going on and someone applying to be commander-in-chief. As a woman, I want to see you do more than, appeal to giggling and having a girl moment on the stage.
Was there ever a moment that sort of forced you to confront the concept of race?
For me, it's more about ethnicity. As you guys can see, I have an accent, right? And I speak with an accent. I don't think with an accent. You just learn to be comfortable in uncomfortable situations.
A conversation with implications beyond the ballot box.
I think every time we see polling, it's about race. And, as a candidate of color, you put a lot of stake into how this candidate represents, say, the Black experience or the Indian American experience. I think we will never ask Donald Trump or Joe Biden or Bill Clinton or George Bush to do the same thing. I think white people are expected and people of color aren't.
To do what?
To be in the highest office in the United States.
We just got done watching the video of the mixed panel MSNBC put together and how they feel about it. And they weren't really feeling Kamala like that. It's like the world ain't feeling Kamala. I don't see it. She gotta have 90-some% of the Black vote. It's a lot of Black people not supporting Kamala. She gotta have a lot of the white vote. It's a lot of white people not supporting Kamala. She gotta have the Latino vote. It's a lot of Latinos and Latinas not supporting Kamala. She gotta have the LGBTQ vote. It's some of them shifting to the other side. She not looking presidential in the interviews. She got only so much time left to the clock running out. What you gonna do, Kamala? You gonna perform a magic trick? You gonna perform a magic trick? Like I said before, she gotta win all the Rust Belt states, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. If she don't do that, she gotta win Georgia, Arizona, Nevada, or she gotta put a combination of 3 states out of them 6 states. And no matter how Black she is or claims she be, she not gonna have the Black vote to put over the top. So we're gonna get into this UBTV video. It's religion and conspiracy theories. I'm here to tell you everything you believe in is not true. Just because they tell you it's noon, how you know it's 12 o'clock. Just because they tell you up, how you know that's not down. Just because they tell you that's west, how you know that's not east. Just because that's south, how you know that's not north. For example, in school, when they had the map of Egypt, they had lower and upper Egypt, but it was flipped upside down. Now just think about what if the northern hemisphere is really the southern hemisphere and vice versa.
Egypt. And all of a sudden, he gains all of this land after he wins in Egypt. The Nile is a stream, not a specific river, but the river of today is a river that many people think is somehow mentioned as a specific river in the Bible. It is not. The Nile is a Greek translation that changed the word Nile into a proper noun, in which it is abundantly clear it is not. In occasion after occasion, the word Nile was changed from its true form and meaning. An initial mention of a river associated with Egypt in Genesis is in Genesis 15:18, when Abram is given through covenant the land in its most simple context, from the river of Egypt unto the great river, the river Euphrates, neither of which is the Nile, because, as we have already established, the Nile is an improper noun. Again, we look at Isaiah chapter 19 in multiple translations and contexts. The mouth of the Nile is the Egyptian Sea. This major contradiction in biblical geography cannot be explained away by just changing the root meaning of the word Nile from an improper noun to a proper noun. Any biblical scholar will tell you that this is the same river mentioned by name throughout the Greek translations of Scripture, but that same scholar cannot properly reconcile the problem with its literal inconsistencies. Most biblical scholars put the Sea of Egypt as the Red Sea. In doing this, they must be creative in order to make these landmarks fit into their proposed geographical templates. What ultimately happens is the truth spirals down the open air latrine of heathenistic nonsense. In order for this nonsense to fit their templates, words, names, and meanings must be translated completely out of context. For example, if most academic scholars put the Egyptian Sea as the Red Sea, then where is the Red Sea? How does one account for that? Even by naming the sea different names, one is still left with a major hole in their theory. The mouth of the Nile isn't at the Red Sea either. So whichever body of water they use to indicate as the Egyptian Sea, neither fits. More evidence, their information is manufactured to promote false geography. The mouth of the Nile is the Mediterranean Sea, which is represented by neither the Red Sea or the Mediterranean. According to scholars, the Mediterranean Sea was labeled as the Great Sea, recognized as the largest body of water on Earth.
You just repeated the slur again. If it doesn't matter, why do you all keep questioning her identity? She's always identified as a black woman. She is biracial. She has a Jamaican father and an Indian mother. She's always identified as both. Why are you questioning that?
Well, George, first of all, this is something that's actually a conversation throughout social media right now. There are a lot of people who are trying to figure this out. But again, that's a side issue, not the main issue. The main issue.
Sir, 1 second. You just did it. You just did it again.
Of the United States.
Why do you insist on questioning her racial identity?
You want me to talk?
I want you to answer my question.
George, now that you're done yelling at me, let me answer. He talked about it on the stage yesterday in Atlanta for 2 minutes? He spent more than 35, 40 minutes going after her record, talking about how radical of a senator that she was. She was the most liberal senator in the United States, in the United States Senate. That is a fact. He talked about the job that she did as vice president of the United States, a job, I will add, which has been a failure for the American people. I know you guys like to glom on to this that he talks about in jest or in a serious manner for about a minute or so, but what you do not cover is the litany of failures of Kamala Harris. That's what you're not covering, George.
So questioning somebody's racial identity for a couple minutes is okay?
George, I'm going to tell you again, he brought it up. AP is the one that wrote the headline when she first came in to the United States Senate. Didn't talk about her being black, talked about her being the first Indian American senator. AP brought that up. I mean, George, we could have this conversation for the entire segment, but none of this matters to the American people. What matters to the American people is, are we going to have the same policies of the Biden-Harris administration that has been destructive of the American people, or are we going to have the policies of the Trump administration, which put America first, had low inflation, prosperous Americans, no matter your race, no matter your color, no matter your creed, and a foreign policy that kept America safe? Those are the facts that truly matter, because this issue is going to come and go. The lives of the American people is what's going to remain, and that's what matters more than anything else.
If it